Hey everyone, welcome to the Manitoba YBN interview series. My name is Cody and I sit on the committee for the Young Brokers Network. Today I get the pleasure of interviewing our next guest. He's been in the industry for 17 years and is currently the business development manager at Wawanesa Insurance, Jamie Taronno. Thanks for taking the time thanks for taking the time to do this interview with us today.
My absolute pleasure. And the timing is funny. My cat needs to be let out of the room. 1 second. Working from home. What do you think? Pretty good so far.
Oh no, I know the feeling for sure. Now, before we get into anything, for your insurance career, tell me a bit about your background. How did you grow up?
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Ever heard of it? I grew up in Wolseley, and my dad was an insurance broker pretty much my whole life growing up. There was 1 year when he sold granite, I think, but generally he was just an insurance broker. And my mom was, she worked at the University of Winnipeg as a practicum director for international development studies. So she was a professor. I have a brother and a sister, both of whom are in this industry. Who would have thunk it? What are the odds, hey, that a family member in the industry would be in the industry? So yeah, that's me.
Nice. Well, my next question actually was gonna, I guess that relates back to it, but you started your insurance industry early in life, back in 2004, and not a lot of people think of insurance right out of high school. I was gonna say what made you get into insurance, but I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, it's and actually this isn't on my LinkedIn officially, but I started in 1996. I was the unofficial janitor of my dad's brokerage. I was just like a tiny kid doing an awful job sweeping up in exchange for, I don't think I even got paid. I think I got candies or something, but yeah, that's where I got my start in insurance. But then actually doing it for real, 2004, I remember growing up, I was always like, I'm never going to be an insurance broker. No way. That's what my dad does. That's not cool. And then I was in school in university, and I was looking for a job that I could do evenings and weekends that involved meeting a lot of people and just getting to know all sorts of different things. And so I got the job. I know, what are the odds that I get the job? But yeah, and it's been great ever since. It was great to fit in between all of my studies and everything like that. And that's where it all started, 2004.
And then after starting your career, you went to university to study conflict resolution and music, I saw.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about what kept you in the industry? Like what brought you here instead of just pursuing those things?
Well, you know what was interesting? The industry was so kind to me that it offered all sorts of flexibility in terms of the hours I was working and things like that. So that's one of the reasons. But what I also found interesting is when I was in conflict resolution studies at University of Winnipeg, how much practical application I would get of that particular program in my day-to-day life at work. For those of you that aren't brokers or haven't worked the front line, everybody needs car insurance and a driver's license. And so you get all sorts of different types of people coming up, and you need to finish the transaction. Doesn't matter how challenging they are, unless they're actually being abusive, and then you kick them out. But yeah, so it was really interesting for me to keep the job, and it was really flexible is the short answer to the actual question that you asked.
Yeah, I didn't go to school for insurance at first. I went to school for broadcasting, and then I was actually in the construction industry before insurance, working as a safety coordinator, so risk management. Yeah. So it's it kind of all puts together, and then you get into the insurance industry, and you could actually use the tools you learn in other places in this industry. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that's what's always been very interesting to me about the industry is there's different types of insurance, right? It's not all just the one thing. And if you're coming in with a different type of experience other than insurance, it's actually a boon to your career. As long as you can get through the licensing process, your experience, you're going to meet other people like you that need the insurance because everybody needs it. So, and that was really interesting for me too. I really enjoyed that part of it.
What was your favorite part of it? Like other than like, we'll get further into relationships later. Sure. In the interview, but like, was that what really kept you here, is being able to build those relationships, talk to lots of people? And
yeah, actually, I can't stress enough how interesting it is to work the front line. Like, I can't stress that enough. And for those of you that know, you know. And like literally what you were is you were a professional first impression maker talking about something people don't want to buy and making it as nice of a transaction as you can. Sometimes it involves stepping up to the plate and really helping them with a claim, things like that. But that's what kept me. It was so interesting. You never knew what each day would happen, right? And some of the most challenging and some of the funniest things that I've ever experienced in my life happened on those front lines. And I don't think I fully appreciated that at the time. Like I could have just been moving paper around a desk this whole time, but I was sitting in front of people, every next person, moving on, and there was a lineup of 30 people, and I got to meet all of them. And so, yeah, that's really, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a bit of an extrovert, so that's what really gives me my sauce. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
For sure. No, I definitely notice you're an extrovert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You were, speaking of which, you were involved in both the Young Broker Committee and the IBAN board in the past. What benefits did you see from participating in these?
One of my favorite things about being on any sort of a committee or a board is meeting new people and learning how they think. When I first joined, the IBAN board, that was my first like professional board that I like actually had joined. And I went in there thinking that I was going to just go in guns blazing and I have all these great ideas and everyone would like stand up and clap after I was done talking. And what I really noticed though is everyone's really got a unique perspective on things. And people have different ways of connecting dots, and they have, maybe some people are more roundabout, people are more direct. But one of the things I really enjoyed from that committee and the board was just seeing how people work and getting to know people and learning their process. I love it when I'm like the dumbest one around a table. It really makes me feel invigorated to be able to learn from all these different people. And I think YBN and IBAN both did that for me.
I agree. I joined the committee during weird times. I joined when COVID was going on. So we haven't been able to meet in person, but we're able to like talk to each other through these meetings. And it's amazing speaking to these people. It's great to find out what's going on with them, what's going on in their careers, what's going on with regards to insurance. It's able to bounce ideas back and forth. It is amazing to be able to do that.
And also you get a new perspective on the industry in which you work, right? Mm-hmm. There could be more at play than you think, and somebody else might have caught it. And so I really enjoyed I worked with some really brilliant people on both the YBN and IBAM, and it was a great experience for me to kind of get some more experience and kind of see the peripheries of the industry in a way that I never had thought of it.
What other things do you think would benefit young brokers doing this industry involvement?
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to do something, you should do it. I think, one thing I learned when I was in school and when I was a touring musician and all these things, trying to make everything work, you're not going to get the fulfillment you want if you don't actually go in all the way. And I think that kind of immersing yourself in the community, which by the way, the insurance community is an incredible community. It's just the people are so on every end of it. And I can tell you, because I've literally worked in every corner of the insurance industry, they're all wonderful people and they're so exceptional to be around. But if you're wondering, how do I get to that next level? You got to meet new people and you got to get yourself out there but go in there to learn. Don't go in there because you think you know better. Right. So that's what it did for me. And I wouldn't take it back for the world.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm glad that I really, really enjoy being on the committee, and I really enjoy talking to these people and being able to connect with them first of all, I'm enjoying to be able to connect with anyone during these times, but
totally. I'm there with you.
It's nice being able to have their knowledge too when you're talking to them and seeing a different perspective, as you mentioned.
And I've got a hot take too, and I don't know if everybody agrees with me on this, but I actually love it when people don't agree with each other. Like that to me, I like to know where they're coming from. Like if there's like a complete crossroads at a meeting and nobody's on the same page, that's fun for me. I love to find out why that's happening, what we can do to make it work. Not necessarily for compromise sake, but I just like the challenge of trying to get to know where people are coming from. And if I have a hard enough opinion, trying to convince them to see things my way.
Well, that's great. It's great to be challenged too. So that's not
Oh
that's
yeah,
not a bad thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, in furthering your career, you went on to obtain your CABE designation.
Mhm.
What would you say is the importance of furthering your education in this industry, other
Well,
than the obvious? Yeah.
yeah, other than the obvious, get those letters after your name,
Yeah.
and to get your license to be able to sell it legally. I think that it's important to remember that while insurance sometimes can be perceived as old fashioned, like some people still use fax, and I don't think that'll ever go away, but I'm really hoping it does, just so you know. But it may seem like an old fashioned industry, but it's always changing. There's a ton of new exposures out there. There's a ton of new risk. There's a ton of new products. There's a ton of new things to consider if you were to, buy or run a brokerage, or if you're an insurance company. You owe it to yourself to stay current with these things, because there could be an opportunity waiting in the wings for you, not necessarily from like a new job perspective, but there could be a new class of business that you want to target. There's opportunities out there if you're looking. And if you're on top of it, you could get there first. And I think that that's something that you can really benefit from the up-to-date education provided.
For sure. I went on and got my CABE right away, so I know the importance of it. I'm working on my CIP right now.
Nice.
I got stuff going on in my life, so it's taking a little bit longer than
Yeah.
I wanted. But yeah, no, I think education is extremely important. What other resources do you think are out there to help people get more information on what's going on in the industry?
Well, I would always say to talk to somebody else in the industry, like see what they're doing, find someone that's doing what you want to do, or is kind of at a level that you'd like to get, and see how they got there, see how they're furthering their development. There's some great publications out there, and there's lots of different things online that you can follow. LinkedIn's good for that. Canadian Underwriter is a great magazine. Manitoba Insurance Broker, great publication, very good. But it is actually. I know I sound like I'm joking, but I mean it. So there's lots of ways that you can stay up to date. But ultimately, if you're wanting to advance your career, talk to somebody who's done it already, and how did they get there, right?
Exactly. Find a mentor, shadow
Yeah.
them, find out what's going on. Yeah. Now, you've worked on almost all sides of the industry. You started off your career at the brokerage. What would you say was your favorite, most memorable moments doing that?
I got to tell you, some of my favorite moments were like when I was like 19 years old, and somebody would come in and say something just truly insane or hilarious, and then you'd have to keep it together for the rest of the transaction. That for me was like, I treasure those moments where they would just say something so inappropriate, but like not so much that you need to like call a manager, and you just have to keep it together. I guess if I was to boil it down, some of my favorite moments, and I saw this both at IBAM when I worked there, as a broker, and at Wawanesa, is the people in this industry are really fun. And it's a serious job, and it's important, and the stakes are sky high, but the people in this job they're really fun, they're really caring, and they're really wonderful. And for me, it's always been about that element for me. So I can't pinpoint it to any one thing, although there's probably some funny stories I can tell from when I worked frontline. But I would ultimately say it comes down to the people, the friendships I've made, and the fun situations I've found myself in with these people.
For sure. Yeah, no, that happens to me constantly,
Oh
especially
yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't end.
Nope.
Now, you worked in both P&C and life.
Mhm.
What were your favorite parts of either one of those?
I'll tell you, my favorite part about life, and I really enjoyed these moments, was going into, back when you were allowed to see people in person, going into the living room of a young couple, and you sit down and you talk to them about what their plans are for their life. That to me, it was really an authentic discussion. Term life insurance isn't crazy expensive, so it's not like I was trying to like trick them into buying anything. They saw the need there. I was there to help them, and just kind of to work through the needs analysis with them, to kind of see what their goals are. And it was fun to see them kind of the road of their life opening up ahead of them, as they actually gave some thought to some things they hadn't given thought to. And so that I really enjoyed that element of life insurance. And for P&C, sometimes you get to be the hero and you get to find a coverage that maybe wasn't necessarily there in the event of the claim. And so I've got some fond memories of being able to deliver some very good news that we were able to secure something for someone who initially thought there might not be coverage there in the first place. So yeah, it's a serious business, and the stakes are so high that you can really get some warm and fuzzies if you do it right, and if you're doing what's right for your customer.
Yeah, I agree. With regards to the PNC side, the exact same situation happened to me on Saturday, actually.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I was able to I can't go into the details, of course, due to confidentiality.
You don't want to give me a policy number, or?
No.
No.
But I was able to find something out on their policy which they didn't even know about, and fix it for them, and they were extremely grateful.
Yeah.
And on the life side, I completely agree with you. With regards to term, a lot of families started thinking about their mortality during COVID now, and a lot of more calls coming in with regards to that, and talking to them about exactly what their needs are, and going through the needs analysis with them and discussing what's going on. So,
well, you know what's funny too? I always like, how many kids are you gonna have? And then when they both say a different number, that to me is like, that's very funny. It's just like 0. It's like 10. I'm like, oh man, you guys have some talk. Do you want me to leave?
Now, Jamie, I of course was lucky enough to have worked with you in the past, and as mentioned previously, I know how good you are at building relationships. What advice would you give to young brokers getting into the industry with respect to them trying to connect with people?
Well, first of all, the pleasure was mine. Let's start with that. It's an absolute joy to work with you too, and it's good to see you again. Advice I would give to people interested in the industry, but in building the relationships, mean what you say and say what you mean. I think it's important for people to be authentic. Like, if you can be open-minded, authentic, and kind of warm to people, it means a lot. Because I think a lot of the time people will spend a lot of effort kind of saying things that they don't mean, or that they think the other person wants to hear. But I think if you can be like a straight shooter with people, and they know that you're doing it from the heart, you're not doing it to trip them up or to further your career, I think it really means a lot. And you can have a tough conversation with somebody where they don't like what you're saying or don't agree with it, but they know who you are. And they know that you're person that trying to but they know you. So I encourage people to just find out who you are, mean whatever you're telling people. Don't be saying things that you don't mean. You'll get yourself in trouble, and frankly, you can find yourself in an E&O situation if you're not careful. So.
For sure. I think I completely agree with you. I think the biggest way to build relationships with people, whether they want to hear it or not, is to build trust. And by doing that, you need to say exactly what you mean and deliver on it. Like, don't make promises that you can't keep, even though people may want to hear those things. Make sure that you deliver on those things that you're saying.
I remember when I was younger, I would always say, oh, I'm 5 minutes out, when I was going to be late, when I knew I was going to be 45 minutes late. Like, why would I say 5 minutes out? Like, pull the Band-Aid off. It's going to be 45 minutes late. No, people will appreciate that you told them the truth. That's a microcosm. Obviously, there's more important things than that, but it depends what you're late for.
Well, I remember when I worked with you, you put a little poster on the fridge that said, "You're never late if you bring donuts." So.
Oh, I think you put that up.
No.
That's funny. I forgot about that fridge.
So after 14 years of being at a brokerage, you decided to make the move and work directly for IBEM as a manager of membership services. What drove you towards that?
Well, actually, what happened, there was some time in between that. So I had what I had done is I actually went off to be a professional musician for a year. And it was kind of precipitated by some happy coincidence that I happened to be in an act that had some leverage behind it, was doing okay. But also, there was a lot going on with regards to things at home. My wife has muscular dystrophy, and that was kind of causing us to kind of take a look at the trajectory we're on and make sure that we're still kind of doing things in a way that we wanted to. So I took that time off to be a musician. As mentioned in question number 2, it's not a gainful employment, unfortunately. It's gainful in terms of you meet a ton of amazing people, you travel the world, and it's incredible. But then when it comes time to pay your bills, it's a little bit more challenging. But I'd always been very close with IBAM. I was on the board there. And I'd always been close with the membership because I've always loved being a broker in Manitoba. And so when that position opened up, it made perfect sense for me to have a call with Grant and see if maybe I could interview for the role. So luckily for me, he took me up on the offer to become the manager of membership services. So
that's great. So you took a year off just to work on things with everything, your music and all that.
Yeah.
Why although the position opened up, why did you come back to insurance? What brought you back? Just
good one.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think that a lot of people think that you can just sell all your belongings and buy a boat and somehow you're going to be a millionaire, eccentric person that's just living in a boat. I read all sorts of articles like that back then. And what I realized amidst my very transient life as a musician, I like stability, and it helps you to kind of build upon yourself. If you have some stability, you can take a closer look at what you're looking for in life instead of just running around in circles all the time. And what I liked about insurance is the people, the stability, the challenges. I really enjoy a good challenge. It's a lot of fun for me to get at that. So yeah, so that's why I went back to it. And I was so lucky to have the opportunity to get back there, even though there was a gap in my employment. And I can tell you, a gap in employment isn't as big of a deal now as it once was, everybody. So don't be afraid to take a risk, but I can tell you that a lot of what you're chasing is right in here. It's inside you all along. So you can put that on a postcard or something.
I'll write it on my whiteboard back there. That's pretty deep, Jamie. Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
You can take down the sign from the fridge about the donuts and put something else out now.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, everything led you towards the role that you're in now as a business development manager for Wawanesa. Can you tell me a bit about what pulled you towards that? Absolutely.
As a broker, I worked very closely with Wawanesa for years and years and years. And I always was I was always very proud of Wawanesa for being a local company. And I'm sure you all know this. We got a nice video that shows people this. But Wawanesa was founded in a tiny little town called Wawanesa, Manitoba. And what I liked about it is it loved that it was from Manitoba as a company. And its identity is a Manitoba company. And that to me was really important. I like a more personal experience, and I've always enjoyed how things were working with Wawanesa. And in terms of developing business, that's not dissimilar to what a broker does. That's a world I was always comfortable with. In terms of managing people, I'd done that before too. And I really did go after this job knowing that I get to work with brokers, I get to work in an industry that I understand, and it would be really challenging. And those are the three things that I really enjoyed about the opportunity. And I'm as surprised as you are that I got it, but here we are.
Now, okay, since you're talking about challenging, what would you say is the most challenging point in your career?
Oh man, I know it's cliche, but it might actually be during COVID. I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that really sets this industry apart, and I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, is how much fun we all have when we get together. And that really is what perpetuates me. It's what gets me out of bed. It's what, just to see people face to face, to have these interactions. And so it kind of, I've actually worked from home at Wawanesa longer than I've worked in my office. I think I still have an office there, but I guess I'll have to find out in fall when we go back. But it's a challenge, and it's not just yourself that you have trouble with when you're a people leader during times like this. You also need to keep it together for your team, and your team's having a hard time. And if I look back to any of the most challenging parts of my career, anywhere I worked, it's when the people around me are having a hard time too. And I can't fix it, right? And so that was always the challenge for me, is how do I support these people that I count on, that are counting on me, in a time when it's really hard to maintain your composure. So, well, the past 16 months has been the biggest challenge of my professional and personal career. I'm actually really proud of how it went, and so that's something.
Since you brought it up, since we're talking about COVID right now, with everything that evolved with regards to digital technology and everything, what do you think the industry is going to look like going forward?
I think that there are going to be certain jobs where you don't ever need to go to an office in this industry. I can't say that it would necessarily be at a brokerage office or not. It depends. But I know in the insurance company end of things, there are certain jobs that you don't actually have to be in the office for. So I can see that we're going to have talent from all around the province or the country telecommuting in. I think there's going to be a lot of people doing kind of both, where they work partly from home and then they go into the office. And there's going to be some people, this guy right here, who wants to see as many people as humanly possible, as soon as humanly possible. But I think what's going to happen with this industry is the companies that are able to adapt their work arrangements to account for the fact that a lot of people are going to want to work from home. If they can figure out a way to tap into that market, they're going to get some of the best talent in the country or internationally, although I think that's a tax nightmare. But
yeah,
So to speaking to before, identifying opportunities by keeping current on things, like this is an example of an opportunity, right? If you can be that employer of choice for people and let them work from anywhere they want, you can really have access to some really high potential people.
I agree. High potential people, and I think being able to do that too would really change people's work-life balance as well.
Yeah, but it's been interesting though. People working from home, sometimes it's harder to get away from the job too. And I think that we've probably any of us that have been lucky enough to work from home during this pandemic have realized that sometimes it's hard to turn off the laptop. Sometimes it's hard when your laptop's sitting on your kitchen table and you're making dinner, you're like, I'll just check that email. So work-life balance, I think, is going to be paramount going forward too, because people are going to realize how important it is.
Yeah,
I interrupted you. Sorry, Cody.
No, that's okay. Interrupt away. I want to hear what you have to say. That's why you're
Sounds here. Sounds good. Okay.
I agree though. It's although I can't get away from my laptop when it's at home. I do work from home right now. Some days I work from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock because it's here with me. Mm-hmm. But it surprises some of my clients though, so it's not a bad thing.
Absolutely.
As well. So
as long as you make time for yourself, drink plenty of water. Sorry, I'm not your manager anymore.
Yeah, no, I've gotten those emails too. Drink water, take breaks. Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
No, so it's great. It's great being able to be there for your clients during these times too. Whether you get an email at 9 o'clock at night and able to respond to it really quickly, that's Absolutely. Good too. But not being able to commute, sometimes you're able to start earlier and get more work done. So
exactly.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side of that, what would you say the proudest moment of your career would be?
I know this is another cop-out because it's going to be more of like a scenario that sometimes happens rather than one individual thing. But some of my proudest moments would stem from when I was a people leader, a manager. So it could be the brokerage, could be at Wawanesa. When things get really hard and the team is able to step up because they feel supported and they just crush it. That for me, nothing makes me happier than that. It tells me that I've got the right people in the right places. It makes me proud that they feel supported enough to work so hard. And I saw it when I was a broker. I've definitely seen it at Wawanesa. It's a true joy. And being a people leader is really hard at times, but that makes it all worth it at the end of the day.
I wouldn't call it a people leader. I would call it a leader, but.
Well, I could be leading cats. I could be leading other things. Sorry.
No, that's okay. What are some of your goals for the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to just keep my options open and always be paying attention to things. I I don't go in actually, and here's some advice I have for people actually too, is when you're thinking about what you want in your future or in your lifetime, don't focus on the title or the place you're going to end up. Focus on what you want your day to look like. Focus on what you want your bank account to look like. Maybe you don't need to make 500 grand a year. Focus on what your home life is like. So to that end, I don't have an easy answer to that question, because ultimately I'm very happy where I'm at now, and it's going great, and I'm going to keep paying attention to things as they develop and see what happens. But it's important to take a minute and appreciate what you got. And my short-term goal for the future is to go inside of a restaurant and eat a hamburger with a friend. That's really paramount for me at the moment, apparently. But.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's so basically what you're saying, what you do is actually first you look at the future, figure out what you want from that, and you work your way backwards from there.
Exactly. And just remember that the road isn't always going to be apparent to you. But if you know what you're doing it for and what you want it to look like roughly, there's going to be opportunities for you. I think some people get confused and they just keep chasing the next promotion over and over until they end up in a position where they're not enjoying themselves, and maybe they're making a bunch of money, but that's not fun for them, right? So, for me, I know I like people. I know I like this industry. Here I am, and it also gives you a moment to reflect on what you're currently enjoying too, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. Like, this life is short. You need to be happy with whatever you're doing. So, and you're doing it for most of the day, so you got to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise,
well, in your case, you're doing it 16 hours a day.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but I enjoy it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you've been in this industry for a while, as mentioned, and with the insurance market the way it is now, what advice do you have for this generation of brokers that have never seen market conditions like this?
Oh, I got out of being a broker 5 minutes before this hard market.
Yeah.
I am so sorry that this is happening to you, dear brokers. But what I will tell you is, this has a unique challenge to it for sure. It's really tough. You're delivering a ton of bad news. Sometimes you can't even find insurance for someone. And it kind of feels like a Game of Thrones winter where it's like 5 years long or 15 years long. But what I can tell you is, when it starts changing, the hustle doesn't stop. It just changes what you're hustling for, because there's going to be more competition going after your book. And so all I can tell you is just know who you are, do what you're doing, and be honest with people, and just be ready. It's this soft, when the market softens, your life isn't going to get a ton easier. It's just going to be a different kind of a challenge every day. But that's what's so cool about this industry, is you just never know what you're going to get.
Now, it's interesting. As you mentioned, you've been on the broker side and now you're on the company side. With regards to that, I called it a hard market, but there's been conversations on both sides of this. Do you think this is a hard market or a market change?
I think that it is a hard market, and I think it will end, but it's not going to end suddenly. It's not going to be like suddenly a starting pistol and it's like, great, go have at her. Here's 50 million more of capacity in the market. That's not necessarily how it's going to work. I think the market conditions have changed for sure. There's no question. But I don't think that this is the way things are at the moment. I don't think it's going to be like that forever. In fact, we've already seen some things starting to soften up in Canada as far as the market goes. I can't hindsight. People always think the grass is greener. So you could be thinking back, you're like, oh, when there's a soft market, I could get call the underwriter and get whatever price I wanted and blah, blah. And maybe you could have, but that might be why we got to this hard market in the first place, right? So, and it's on both sides of it. The insurance companies are not blameless here. It's been a bit of a tough go, but I think the market will soften up. I don't think it's going to be like it was before, but I think it's going to be a lot easier to do some negotiating down the line.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to soften up as well. I think there's going to be a lot more due diligence, though, to prevent this from happening again.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
Now, I always end the interview with this question. What advice would you give? And you've given a lot of advice.
Unsolicited advice, everyone's favorite. Yeah.
No, it's great. What advice would you give to young brokers to thrive in their career?
I think I will go back to kind of what I said before is if you don't know what you want it to look like, don't go chasing it, right? You could easily find yourself in a position that's worse off than you were before. But if you know what it's all for, if you know, even thinking about how much money you want to make, give some thought as to what your perfect life, perfect, nothing's perfect, but your best life is going to look like. And how can your job support you in getting there? This industry is huge. One thing I learned when I moved to the insurance company side is there's a lot more people than underwriters working at an insurance company and BDRs. Like there's a ton of people. There's a ton of opportunities for everything. And so I would challenge you as a young broker, whoever you are watching this, think about what you want it to look like. Don't think about the job title. Don't think about how nice of a car you're driving. Think about how comfortable you feel financially. What's your family doing? How many hours do you work? Just give it some thought. And then make sure that what you're doing now isn't already hitting that. And then if not, then how do you get there? What do you need to do? So that's my advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. I really, really, really enjoyed this, and I was really happy to see you today.
Good to see you too.
I can't wait to be able to see you in person again one day.
Can't wait. This is going to be good. I think things are starting to open up a bit, and I can speak for Wawanesa when I say we're looking forward to getting out there and meeting with people. But I don't think anyone's more excited than I am in the entire world. So it's going to be good to see you in person, Cody. And thank you to the YBN for having me for this.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jamie.
No problem.